everyone. This is a video on how to rebuild your rear suspension. I'm going to cover how to replace your rear trailing arm bushings, these guys right here and there, without removing your brake line, your hydraulic brake line, and then your e-brake line, your cable brake line right here. I'm also going to leave the axle in, and I'm going to leave the whole brake drum assembly on. I have the actual drums off right now, but you don't need to take those off. I'm just doing some service work on the brakes while they're off. So this is maybe not for everyone. Quick note is that I am doing Powerflex bushings, so that makes the install of the bushings substantially easier because you don't have to press them in. So this may not be for everyone. I don't know if you could press the bushings in the way I'm going to do it or not, but you can definitely press them out. So I'm installing Powerflex bushings without removing pretty much anything, including the trailing arms. So this is how I'm going to do it. The first thing you're going to want to do is, I've already obviously removed my spring and shock. The first thing you're going to want to do is take this bolt right here. You're going to put it back where it went with the shock. And then you're going to take this bolt here that used to go right here, and you're just going to reinsert him. And then once you get these bolts back in, I've just used this yellow strap here, and you're just going to sort of cinch this up a little bit like so, and that's just going to give it some support. Take the weight off the axle here, sort of where your shock absorber used to be, and then we'll do another one around the trailing arm and up through this little slit right here to hold this from dropping down, and that way you're not going to damage this. You've obviously got just a little bit of play with this. You can't let the trailing arm drop down too much, otherwise you're going to rip that line, which you obviously don't want to do. So put that in, and then you can go ahead and start trying to get these bolts out, which is always fun. So once you pull the cap off, you can go ahead and get on these with a breaker bar and try to crack them loose. If you're lucky, they'll crack loose and you'll be able to slide them right out. But if you're like most of us, you'll have these which are rust welded in. You can see I've cut these. These are from the other side. And you're not going to get these out by just wrenching on them. Heard of people getting them out with a big impact, but I don't have that, so I'm resorting to the Sawzall. This side is also seized up. I've already tried both of these. You can get in with the Sawzall blade right here next to the rubber pad, and then the tab here. Just be careful not to cut this, obviously. Try to sort of aim into the rubber, if anything. And just chop. You can chop this side off, and you'll have to chop the other side off because you're not going to be able to drive it through if it's that rusted, like this is. So you can start working on that. Before you do that, throw another strap like this around the trailing arm and then up through there, and just cinch that up too, so that'll give it a little support. And then you can go ahead and chop these out. One thing you're going to need to buy, probably beforehand, is some new bolts to go through your new bushings. These are an M12 100mm long bolt. You can get these at the hardware store if they sell metric. These are just a tad shorter than the stock ones. It's actually the only ones that my hardware store had. And then you'll need some nuts and some washers. So you'll need 4 bolts, 4 nuts, and then 8 washers, one each side, so 2 per bolt. And then when you go, take your new bushing sleeve with you, and then you can check the fitment of your bolt. It should obviously be a nice snug fit. You know, it slides well, but not too loose or too tight. So take that with you to make sure you're getting the right bolt. And you should probably do this one way or another, even if you're able to get your old ones out. Chances are they're probably pretty rusty and screwed up anyway, so that'll be what you need. Alright, so as I'm taking these out, actually I got this bolt out. I'm putting these ticks right here to mark the camber alignment, so you can sort of put it back together how it was, and you'll have to get it aligned still, but this will at least sort of get you in the general area. Alright, so I finished cutting out the bolt, and then I pressed out the old bushing and bolt with a press tool, like a ball joint press tool that I rented at AutoZone. Just put this right there and then just pressed it right out, not very hard. And then to get the rear one, I'm still in there, just take like a small bolt and lift up the trailing arm and put this guy through and let him just sort of sit on that, and then you can drop that side down and press out that bushing, and then I've got this strap here to sort of support everything. It's not really that tight, but it just sort of keeps everything in place. Alright, so I just kind of pulled this down. You have to watch out because this brake line gets pretty tight, and then you gotta watch the angle on this guy. Right now it's okay, but you don't want it to get too severe. But there should be enough room to fit the press tool up in there and pop that guy out. Alright, so I'm just pressing this out. You can see the press tools on the ball joint adapter. It's a little sketch how it's on there, but it's working because you don't actually have to put that much force to get these to come out. So once you get the bushings out, I just kind of give them a good clean with a wire brush. Get all the old residue out, and then you can go ahead and put the new ones in. So these are the Powerflex bushings. I lubed them up with some Acro lube. I just got these from T3 Technique. These guys have got really good prices, and they're super nice. So anyways, you just kind of slide these in on each side, and then you'll slide the sleeve in, the metal sleeve. You might have to give it like a light tap with a hammer, but for the most part they just slide right in. So once you get the bushings in, I usually do this sort of inside first. It's a little easier. Start putting in the metal sleeve from this side, because then you can get a hammer on it and just give it a couple light taps until it's flushed up like that, and then you can work it into place and put the bolt in. So once you get the arms back up in place, you can slide your new bolts through, and then over here just realign it with your ticks. I kind of have like 2 ticks on the outside and then 1 middle tick, and then you can put on your new nut and washer. Do the same with the rear one, and then torque them down, and you're good to go. So once you get them realigned, just torque these down to 74 foot-pounds, and then you can go ahead and put your spring and stuff in. I'm putting in a Westy 1.5" lifting spring with some Bilstein shocks. I'm not going to cover that, as Camper Van Culture has a really good video on how to do that. And it's pretty straightforward. I've just disconnected my axle to do it because my spring compressor is not working. So but yeah, that part's pretty easy. So check out Camper Van Culture if you need to, and that's how you rebuild the trailing arm bushings without removing the brake lines.